I didn't think how I was going to start this.
Little introduction to what this is, mayhaps.
This is a podcast style thing of talking about Umbrella Academy. I don't know. Were
Yeah.
we intending on doing every episode?
I'm not sure,
It
I
depends.
just kind of figured, I haven't seen enough podcasts. I don't feel like anyone has ever done one before.
I don't think so either. This
Yeah,
is like
so
a pretty great idea.
I agree. But I think, starting off with at least the first episode of Umbrella Academy, if, there's some more interesting things that we feel like we want to talk about, I have no issues with doing another one.
Yeah. Depends on how this one goes.
hmm
Okay.
So, starting off with like the first episode, what are your thoughts on it?
I I thought it was really good, but I said earlier like nothing really happened, but it did set up a lot of interesting stuff.
Right, right.
Um
It's definitely an interesting premise.
it it's it's more along the line like the way that the time travel works. I was thinking about this. Like did you watch Avengers Endgame
Yeah.
where they go back in time and that creates like an alternate timeline where
hmm
this form of time travel is there's one solid timeline and you can travel within that timeline and then that's that. Because they're all in different points of time,
Yeah.
but since 5 was in like the latest point, he was able to go back and find all the other ones, or two of them, in the same timeline. Like it wasn't. I don't know how to explain it. Time is weird.
Time is why are all of our series revolved around time, dude? It's like the most complicated thing.
I don't know, but it's easier to make a timeline if you have full control over how it works rather than try to
Right.
explain the other everything else.
Yeah, well, I guess like originally when I first started watching the episode, like I was kind of on the same area of like, oh, is the alternate timelines and stuff, because like, like at first I saw like Vanna with like her eyes again, and then like
Oh
the whole
yeah.
crew was showing up fighting off the soldiers, which by the way, amazing scene. That
Oh
was
my god.
something.
Klaus was always my favorite.
Oh, okay.
He
So
got so much better.
I actually have like I took a bunch of notes here.
Oh.
And every single note just says long-haired claws. Every note says that.
Oh my god, I love it. I don't know how I
I'm
feel
living
about
for long-haired claws.
I know, I love it. But I don't know how I feel about Diego with the more scruffy look.
Yeah, like that was a bit of a shocker for me. Also, I think they're setting Diego up to be kind of interesting. Like, if I were to guess, I think he's gonna have like a real big character arc this season, because like he has a
definitely.
lot to grow just
Yeah,
as a person.
like the entirety of last season, he was all like, "Oh, Dad hates us. Dad's a bad person."
Yeah, and they kind of touch on that in the therapy scene
They
too, where
do.
it's like, you've got this hero complex,
Mm-hmm.
which is very interesting because like us in the first season watching it, it's like we never think about that because like we're literally watching a superhero show. Like they don't
Yeah.
have, like, obviously they don't have a hero complex because like they're literal heroes, but
Mm-hmm.
that's in the future. Like this is the 60s. Like there no,
Yeah,
you
it's
just talked about JFK for some reason.
yeah. I think the whole Diego trying to save the president is interesting because like it seems like something that he would do.
Oh yeah, and
It's
he's
not.
like way obsessed with it.
He is. He's. I mean, they had to put him in the arm hug coat,
The straight jacket,
straight jacket.
the
That's
arm
what it
hug
is.
coat, Phoenix. The arm hug coat, yes, my favorite.
Oh, I love it. But oh, it just again on his character, you can't hold Diego.
No, so I watched it with subtitles. I don't know about you, but
I watch
I'm
it
a
with
sub guy.
subtitles. I
And
love subtitles.
when he was in the straight jacket, and the subtitles literally just says joint, like disconnected joint or whatever, and I'm like, oh wow.
I didn't see that. See,
Yeah, no, he's like, so like the whole, like he's in the straight jacket and he like, what's the word I'm thinking of? Like when your joint gets out of
dislocated.
place. Yes, he dislocated his arm, and then he gets out of the straight jacket and he's meeting up with Lila. Is that her name?
Lila. I think I wanted to talk about her.
She's amazing, but like
She
when
is.
she's up with him, she puts his arm back in place.
I
She
know.
relocates it.
I saw that, but I didn't know when it got dislocated.
Yeah.
I thought, like, he said, watch my arm. I heard that, but I thought that was just talking about, because didn't he get, like, the needle in his arm, or was that in his back? I didn't quite see.
I didn't see.
Because
that
I thought
scene,
that was, like, still, like, a tender area because he just got stabbed with a huge needle.
dude, that scene actually, like, hurt my feelings. Like, he had, like, genuine fear in his voice of not the needle. Like his eyes, it was a very good scene. Like, that one kind of got to me because it's like that really put into perspective just like how long he had been there, because like he was in there for like over 70 days. It's insane.
I didn't immediately see it as he's gotten the needle more than once. I thought they were just going back to season 1 when they were like, hey, Diego, give your blood, and they pulled out the needle and he passed out.
I forgot about that. Yeah, that's a good callback.
Not planning for this podcast, I just rewatched the first season this week to get myself hyped for season 2. So all of the like season 1 is kind of fresh in my memory.
Yeah, see, I haven't watched it since it came out, so I think that's gonna kind of be interesting for this podcast too, because it's like we've got one person who's got like season 1 fresh in the memory, and then we have another guy who like only like this like specific important things kind of jut out at you.
And one thing I should have known that the second season was going to be based on the Dallas comic, because I would have bought both Apocalypse Suite and Dallas and read the comics, so I was able to compare it.
See, I was going to ask about that because I remember reading somewhere that they were out of source material, but there's a comic about this arc too?
Yes, it's Gerard Way, the singer of MCR, wrote the comic, and
What?
The way that
Gerard Way wrote Umbrella Academy?
Yeah, it's Gerard Way. I have the comic right next to me.
That's insane.
Gerard Way and Gabriel Ba and Dave Stewart and Knight Picos. I don't know any of those other 3 names, but they are illustrators and colorers, I think. But one thing about the first season is reading the first few chapters of the graphic novel. It's based on it, but it's a lot different. Like,
takes like creative liberties.
Yeah, but like the whole first season is Vanya thinking she doesn't have powers, and then the conductor, which is who Harold Jenkins, that he was supposed to be the conductor, because in the comic what happens is it's basically the same thing. Vanya goes to her family shuts her out, but at the beginning of the comic Apocalypse Suite, she goes to her family, or no, the conductor comes to her first saying, you're stronger than you think, and then she walks out, says, no, there's nothing special about me, and then she comes back and says, fine, I'll do your show, rather than she gets to the show.
I still can't get over the name Harold Jenkins, if I'm being honest with you. That is the most, like, if Clark Kent had a Clark Kent name, it would be Harold Jenkins. Like, that's amazing.
It is. It's great.
But this isn't about season 1, man.
No, it's
we gotta talk about some season 2 stuff. First of which, the Milkman. That was a thing.
Oh my god. I read about the Milkman. I saw him walk out of his truck and hold the milk, and I was like, oh, I remember seeing somewhere about the Milkman assassin. He's in the second comic.
I just remember I was watching it earlier, and I was like, out loud, I went, the Milkman. And then, like, I couldn't stop laughing, because if anyone else lived in this apartment, they would just in my room go, like, hear me go, the Milkman. And then that's it.
I love the thought of being in your apartment and just hearing the Milkman.
How ominous is that?
It is. And then, like, see, I knew what was going to happen because I know about the Milkman assassin. I knew that guy was going to die as soon as the milk got slimmed.
Right, yeah.
That's what he's called, is the Milkman assassin. But I knew...
You're kidding me. That's his actual name? Yeah, that's amazing. Oh, wow. Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, the Milkman assassin.
So, as far as, like, because, like, after the Milkman is introduced, just kind of, like, looking like a milkman does, he walks up next to this Draco Malfoy looking man. I thought the intros of like the main characters was kind of interesting because like they're when they get spit back into the 60s, it's very on character for them. Like when Luther gets spit out, he's immediately looking for Allison. But
yeah,
the one that stands out the most has got to be Vanya's. I called her Vanya earlier.
Yeah,
I think.
it's
Vanna.
Vanya.
Yeah, Vanya. Like she walks out, she's like, "Oh, what's going on?" Well, at least I got my family back. It gets hit by a car.
Yeah,
that's a very on-brand character intro for Miss Vanya. Go ahead.
On the topic of Vanya, I don't trust that girl that she's with. When they were in the barn smoking, she said, "I'm gonna like saving up to run away. This person doesn't." I don't trust her. She seems like a Harold Jenkins kind of person.
You think?
Like, not necessarily to the extent of using Vanya, but just someone that, like, they portray as a good guy, but they're not.
I think it's the opposite. I think the husband is going to do something. Because, like, he seems real shady, you know? Mm-hmm. So, I don't know, man. That is interesting, though. I hadn't thought of that. Yeah, huh.
And, like, I don't know. Like, would they do that to the same character?
Oh, yeah? Are you kidding me? She got introduced by being hit by a car.
I guess they're really driving it home that she's
boo.
Oh my god, I didn't even realize that.
Get off the stage.
I didn't even realize that.
I'm disgusted. But on the topic of Vanya, do you think she actually has amnesia? Like, she was hit by a car and she seems pretty genuine. Like, or do you think she's just playing it off? Like, because at first I was like, oh, she's faking it, but...
Yeah, that's what I thought. I was like, she doesn't actually forget.
Yeah, near the end, I'm like, maybe.
Maybe.
I don't know. Like, I feel like a lot of season 1 was, you know, obviously was focused a lot around Vanya. Like, do you think it's going to be like that again? Or do you think,
I hope not. I hope it's going to be more focused around the Umbrella Academy and not... Oh, Vanya has powers. Let's focus on that.
That'd be great. Like, because 5 definitely has a bit more of a presence.
Definitely. But he was a main... I guess you can't even really say he was a main focus because he wasn't even in, like, the majority... He had probably has less screen time than everyone else.
Yeah, he's definitely, like, impactful. Like, he's necessary for the story. Obviously, you know, like, he's the one that's like, oh, world's ending. But, like, he's definitely taking more of a driver's seat for this season.
Yeah, definitely. I guess if we're making our way through the characters, Allison can talk.
Allison can talk, and she's married.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder what's going to happen when Luther finds out.
Yeah. I mean, we'll talk about Luther next, because
I've got some things about him, too, yeah.
Yeah. But how did she learn how to talk?
Not
learn. How was she able to talk again?
Yeah, I don't... Well, because, like, when you look, she still has the scar in her throat, so it's still, like, the same Allison.
She does?
Yeah, she has the scar in her throat.
I didn't see that.
I don't remember if, like, it was, like, she just needs more time to heal kind of thing, or... Because I thought she was gone. Like, I thought her voice was gone.
Yeah, that's what they said. They said that they're not... Or Mom, or Grace... said that she'd probably never be able to talk again, if I remember that correctly. I remember, she survived, but her vocal cords were really badly damaged. It's a wonder that her one artery didn't get hit.
Wow. Yeah, I'm not sure that they have to explain that. Like, I wonder... I'm sure 5 is probably going to stop by at some point.
Yeah, and then be like, you can talk. You're, mm-hmm.
But Allison is, she's making some moves, man. Like, that intro... when she walks into the restaurant was like super powerful because like it really puts into perspective just like how short of a time ago that was.
Oh yeah, I saw that and the guy pointed up to the sign and I was like, oh my god,
it's insane, right? Because like, and then she becomes this huge civil rights activist, which is amazing. And I think they're building her up to be a really interesting character, which is great because I feel like she was super underutilized last season.
Yeah, and the very first, not the very first scene, the scene where they're all fighting. She had usually the last season you only saw her use her powers in ways that like I heard a rumor that you shot your friend in the foot. This now the first time you see her use her powers,
she literally explodes someone's brain.
Yeah, like it makes sense that she can, but you've only ever seen her do things physically. That's more actual superpower.
Yeah, it's insane. And then
It's
seeing Klaus be able to actually use Ben and stuff
mhm.
effectively. And like
Yeah.
we'll get into Klaus later. That's a whole other can of
Oh yeah,
worms.
that's he's the biggest character.
Yeah,
He's
that's I
the
want to
only
save
one that
that one for
matters.
last.
He's the only one that matters.
Yeah,
Um
but I think she's being set up to be a very interesting character. I'm not sure how like prominent the husband is gonna be. Like he definitely seems a lot more like, all right, back off. Let's take this slowly. And Allison, obviously being Allison, is very like straightforward.
yeah, yeah. Well, to be fair, she is from the future where she knows
Mm-hmm.
how things happen, and I think that's going to play a part in uh a lot of this stuff of them coming from the future, being where they are or when they are. Like Diego's trying to save the president. Allison knows stuff that already happened within the movement that did happen,
Mm-hmm.
that she knows what not to do and what to do because of things that went wrong. That's going to play a part in the second apocalypse or the first apocalypse,
I guess yeah, that is an
the
interesting
60s apocalypse.
yeah, the 60s apocalypse.
Because like if they're like, hey, let's go like protest at this place, but Allison knows, oh, there was like a mass shooting there and a lot of people died. Hey, why don't we not go there?
Yeah, but she doesn't know about the 60s apocalypse yet. So I
No,
wonder
she
how
doesn't.
that's going to change like her approach in her life. Cuz Allison, how long has Allison been there? 3 years? 4 years?
No, or wasn't it Luther that was there 3 years?
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't pay attention to the dates.
I paid attention to most of them. Like Klaus, I don't think they ever told us Allison's.
No, I know. I remember Klaus was February 11th, 1963.
Yeah. No. That was 1960 is when they got there. And then
Oh.
it cuts to like 3 years later when they're walking away and Ben's like, am I just going to have to follow you around for another 3 years? Cuz
Mm.
5 gets there in 63.
Yeah.
So I think Allison got there in 62, I want to say, 61 or 62.
Yeah.
So it's like Luther was there the longest, and then it was Allison, and then Vanya, and then... Oh, wait, no, Klaus and Ben got there in 60.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. It's a lot, man. Time is weird.
Time is weird. I guess Luther, we should talk about him now. He doesn't have his coat. He's not wearing his coat anymore. He's just
not.
letting the fur
He's
fly.
just letting it hang.
Yeah.
Just letting it all hang out there. Just
Mhm.
monkeying around.
You know, for having super strength, he gets beat up really easily.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, the first time we see Luther in, like, his, I want to say, adapted environment in the past,
Mhm.
he's spitting out blood. Like, he's
Yeah.
not some giant half gorilla hybrid designed to, like, cave your chest in with a punch.
Mhm.
And then he's
But-
like doing like the kicks and stuff. I thought were just really funny because of how small his legs are in comparison to his
Yeah.
barrel chest.
Yeah, but then you go from there to thinking about the first scene, and he gets hit with a freaking missile.
Yeah, he does.
He gets hit with a missile, but like
That's-
he
oh,
can't
yeah,
take a
during the-
punch.
That is crazy. Yeah, that. Oh my gosh,
He
dude.
saves Klaus.
Speaking of the missile, oh dude, that intro card.
Oh,
One thing
my-
about Umbrella Academy that I always enjoyed is just how it's such a tiny detail, but just having an umbrella pop up, during the intro card.
Yeah, like every intro, it says the Umbrella Academy pop up somewhere.
On like an umbrella, and the mushroom
Mhm.
cloud was just mwah.
That was perfect.
As a
Absolutely
filmmaker,
perfect.
that is
See-
what I strive to do.
Yeah, see, I'm gonna be honest. I watched the Netflix when they released the first scene. I did watch that, so I saw that and I was like, that's great. Love that.
I loved that. That was great. Speaking of things that are great, the CGI in this one is pretty good. Like the CGI in the first season was also pretty dope.
Yeah.
But like when Allison like blows the soldiers' minds, that was
Yeah.
insanely good.
That was great. I can't stop thinking about Klaus. That scene, I watched the Netflix thing that they released like 3-4 times, it gave me chills every time. It still
It's
gave
so
me
good.
chills when I saw him push the ghost forward.
Yeah.
Mm,
We got to talk about him, man. Let's do it. Let's bring in the man himself.
do.
Klaus
Yes,
and Ben.
Klaus.
You like him this season.
Love him.
He was hands down my favorite last season, you know, and I don't think that's a controversial thing to say. I feel like a lot of people liked him. This season, I'm not entirely sure, man. I hope that he has like a redemption arc, but right now I'm not particularly enjoying the direction he's going. But I understand that you are. So why don't you tell me some of the things that you enjoy about what's going on with him in this season?
I mean, I guess it's interesting to see like where he is now and seeing where he's going to be, or where he ended up being in the when the second apocalypse happened, the 60s apocalypse. Like, I'm interested to see how they go from where he is now to stealing trucks and fighting a ghost on the side of the road as a weird person drives
funny.
by. That was so good. Like, I just want to see, like, I agree with you. Like, he's not in the best place right now as a character, but I really want to see how they go from that to where he is fully in control of his powers, able to, like, control multiple ghosts at once.
Yeah.
Because, like, we saw him last season use Ben, and that's about it, and then he was, like, exhausted.
Yeah.
Whereas now, Ben is just throwing tentacles, and then he's also controlling an army of soldiers. I'm gesturing with my arms.
If I could see you.
Yeah,
I find it interesting how Ben is like, he's thinking for himself. Like, he's not just obeying Klaus.
Mm-hmm. And not just, like, telling him, like, hey, you're being stupid, don't take those drugs.
Well, I mean, yeah.
That's really all. That's, like, all he did last season, other than the final episode.
And this season, he's literally physically interacting with him. Like, like, other people might not be able to see him, but Klaus is literally fighting with Ben on the side of the road. Yeah. To my knowledge, I don't ever remember seeing them have physical contact in the first season.
They did, and that was a big part of the first season. Because
that's right.
He was like, he was about to take drugs, and he was like, fine, I won't. And then he was like,
Ben
psych,
knocked him out.
Then he just punched him, and he was like, you punched me. And then he saves
right.
Diego.
Yeah, that's right.
And then nobody believes him. I'm interested to see, because, like, up until the final battle, they didn't believe him that Ben was there.
Yeah. I'm curious to see, and this might just be, like, dumb things to say, so stop me if I'm not making any sense here. But, like, Ben is starting to become more and more of his own, I guess, person. He's becoming more and more, like, material, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's being able to interact with the physical world. He's making his own decisions. He's got autonomy. I'm wondering if he'll, like, be able to come back.
I really hope so. What is the unfinished business in San Francisco? We don't know how he died. Does that have something to do with it? Does that have something to do with it?
We want answers. That actually, I didn't even think of that. I thought it was just some throwaway thing, but
there was actually
that does make a lot of sense.
I was watching theories on YouTube, and there was, when they were kids, and there was the flashback scene. He was reading a book, and it was by this Russian person, and this Russian person's name means that everything is important. Like, there's nothing that's put into a story that doesn't mean something.
Oh, yeah, every prop on a stage has to be used, kind of thing.
Yes.
I see,
and,
I have heard that.
That was like, what do you call it? The book that he was reading was by the Russian person that name means that. So like that in of itself is meaning that, like, everything means something.
Yeah.
And
that's very clever. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so, like, the San Francisco, I wonder if we're going to end up there. But, like, because it's based on the Dallas comic, I don't know. I haven't read it. I have only read the first couple chapters of the first book.
Yeah.
But I hope that plays into it. But,
I do too.
But even in the comics, we know, like, it's known that we don't know how Ben died.
Oh yeah, I guess you're right, huh? I totally forgot about that.
Yeah.
I would like that to be a pretty big, because, like, Ben was obviously very underutilized because no one knew he was around. So I think
Mhm.
season 2, they're going to do a lot with him.
I hope.
Gosh, I hope.
Ben's my favorite, other than Klaus, but they're they go together.
They come
so, like,
in
it's
a
great.
pair.
It's great.
Yeah. I also greatly enjoy Klaus and Ben.
And another thing that you said, I wonder if he's going to come back. Noted in the first season when Klaus was being tortured by Cha Cha and Hazel, he saw all the ghosts, and you saw the one guy had tire tracks on him, and like his guts spilled, and there was the one that had, like, there was something wrong with them depending on how they died.
Yeah. Oh, but
Ben is perfectly fine. Ben
yeah.
is perfectly fine. People are saying that, like, he's perfectly fine because he killed himself, because you see in the one flashback of the bank robbery, he says, "Do I have to? I didn't sign up for this before using his power." He doesn't like his power.
Yeah, I totally get that. Huh.
So,
a lot of theories.
Saying,
What are people saying here?
People were saying, like I said, they were saying that he might have killed himself, or maybe the monsters, like, got him, killed him somehow, but I don't know.
And was this robbery, like, was this in San Fran?
I don't know. I think this was just in wherever they were to begin with, but this was when they were kids in the first season.
I remember this.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, like, if that bank was in San Francisco, that could be that could be the unfinished business.
Maybe.
Speaking of Hazel,
Hazel.
This man's really just showed up to break our heart, didn't he?
Oh no.
This man showed up rocking a fresh beard, looking crisp in a new suit, and then he is like, "Oh yeah, my wife's dead," and then gets shot.
Yeah, he was shot by I don't know if it was directly him, but one of those 3 people that shot him was the Milkman Assassin.
Yeah, it was the Milkman Assassin, and it was
he wasn't,
Draco Malfoy,
like,
looking boy.
Yeah, and there was another one, but, like, we don't remember him, so he was obviously not important.
I think it might have been Milkman, because I know he was rocking a shotgun, and there were shotgun, like, sprays.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Or maybe it was just, like, because it was also, there were, like, machine guns, so maybe it was a bunch of bullets.
The suitcase had obvious shotguns on it because it was a lot in a small, like, circle.
Yeah. Well, it might have been that, or it might have been, like, because one of them had a Tommy gun, and so, like, that shoots a lot of bullets really fast. And so, like, we're getting into a lot of logistics here of, like, bullets and, like, spray patterns.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm in a CSGO lobby now.
Yeah. Who haven't we talked about yet?
Let's see. Well, we talked about the Milkman. Here's who we can talk about. Let's talk about these very accepting Texans in the bar when Klaus walks in. Like, this is the same time period where Allison walks into a restaurant and, like, she's not even allowed to get a cup of coffee there. Meanwhile, Klaus walks in looking like Jesus Elvis Presley, and some guy's just like, "You want to play some poker?" That's amazing to me.
Mm-hmm.
The dichotomy of Texas. Yeah, no, that's great. But I hope they redeem Klaus. I don't want him to. A lot of season 2s kind of deal with this issue. It's that, like, the first season, the characters are really good and everyone enjoys it. The plots are really good. And then as the seasons go on, they tend to get more, like, caricaturized, like, the really stereotyped one thing. Like, have you seen The Office?
I have not.
Oh, man. So there's this character named Kevin, and he's just this big, fat, balding worker who's, not, like, the best with his words,
Mm-hmm.
And at the beginning of the seasons, he's a dude. He's Kevin, like, he's not, like, the smartest guy, but, like, he's an adult. He does his work, and, sometimes he'll say something stupid, but, like, he's still, like, he's a person, he's not completely an idiot. But people really liked Kevin, and then near the end of, like, the seasons of The Office, they just made him so stereotypically dumb. Like, so, like, why use many words when few words do trick kind of thing.
Yeah.
And, like, I hope they don't do that with, like, Klaus, because Klaus was an interesting character in the first season.
I like the one interview they were about this. How it was like a year ago. Klaus, or the actor that played Klaus. It's so weird hearing him with an English accent.
Dude, that's how I felt about
American.
Hugh Laurie with like House.
Mm-hmm.
Because like he speaks in such a good like American accent, and then he's like, "Oh, hello, I'm Hugh Laurie," you know. That's not how Hugh Laurie's. Never mind, Hugh Laurie. If you're listening, I love you. Big fan. I loved you in Stuart Little. Oh man.
But he was saying that like I don't know. I haven't gotten far enough. I don't know if drugs are an actual issue with Klaus in the comics, but I know that in the comics, Klaus can fly.
Excuse me?
Yes, Klaus can in the comics. What makes me think that he's doesn't use drugs in the comic is because when they're all like gathering up, it's the same premise. Hargreaves, Reginald dies. They all come together, and then stuff goes wrong. In the comic,
it kind of sounds like he's on drugs. I mean, he's flying.
That's his power. They were saying that when they made the show, they wanted to ground the characters.
I didn't think they meant literally, because he can't fly anymore.
Oh, that's great. But yeah, he literally just floated down, like, while they were all gathering in a place, and they were like, hey guys. Diego is known as the Kraken because he can hold his breath indefinitely. But he can't do that in the show because they were humanizing his character. Because as if anything that's...
Right, we want to humanize the characters, especially Luther, the half gorilla, half man who spent many years on the moon.
Yes.
Yes, we want to humanize them.
Oh wait, that's 2 characters that got grounded.
Yeah, I would love to see Klaus bring back flying in this season, but like in some really dumb way. Like he's like floating on just like a pile of ghost bodies it's like those clown things where it's just like people on top of each other's shoulders, and just at the very top of this huge tower of dead people, it's just Klaus like on his stomach just flying.
And he's like, hey, I didn't know I could do that.
So to everyone else, it looks like he's flying, but when Klaus looks down, it's just a pile of dead people just carrying him.
That goes back to Reginald when he was getting his shave, saying that, like, you've only scratched the surface of your powers. Like, he can't just talk. He can... Maybe that was something that they're doing.
That'd be great.
Or hinting towards... I want him to be able to fly.
Yeah, I as far as like Klaus goes, like he's definitely, I feel like he's one of the more interesting characters this season so far. Like obviously 5 has got his thing going on, like, oh, it's the end of the world, but like that's not really new. Klaus,
that's
like,
exactly what the last season was.
Klaus, Ben, and arguably, I'm gonna throw a curveball here, Luther. Huge differences in their character because, you know, Klaus is clean now, Ben is starting to become autonomous, and Luther just said no.
Yeah.
That's insane. That's going to be a huge deal coming up here.
Which is weird, because at the very end of the last season, I guess we're talking about a 3-year difference, but for us, at the very end of the last season, he was like, hey, you do this, you go there, I'm going to go here with these guys, and we're going to fix this. He was being a leader.
Yeah, which, like, and it was a great full circle moment for him. And now he's kind of being on the other, like, on the other side of that circle. Like, it's not just starting at point A, going around, and then coming back. It's, like, starting on a whole different area and having to come here.
Yeah, guaranteed it's has something to do with that guy that he's with.
Oh,
he might be being brainwashed.
That guy is an interesting character too.
I don't know who he is.
I don't either.
Comics.
I'm interested to hear more about him.
Yeah.
You know, he's obviously like a manager type to like Luther, I want to say. You know, he was there with the fighting and stuff.
Mm-hmm. He reminds me of the Handler.
Yeah, he kind of does. Yeah.
So
remind me who the Handler is again.
The time lady that can freeze.
Time lady that can freeze. Yes, the put Hazel's lover in the hot tub.
Yes.
That lady.
No, that was Cha-Cha.
Oh.
The Handler's the blonde lady.
Yeah, I remember the Handler.
Yeah.
I guess I just thought that was her that did that instead of Cha-Cha. Huh.
No, because remember Cha-Cha went to the hotel and was like, "Hey, I'm gonna kill you,
I do remember
but I'm gonna
that.
make Hazel watch."
Oh, jeez.
And then the handler showed up later.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure.
In the middle of their fighting.
Yeah.
So he seems like that, like, not to the extent of, like, he probably is just a normal guy, but more like a mafia boss sort of person. Like, he's there controlling things.
Do you think he's just like a regular guy, or do you think he's involved with all this time stuff?
Probably. I think he works for the fish guy.
The fish guy?
Did you watch the trailer?
No.
Never mind.
Fish guy. We got the fish guy. We got the milkman.
Yep.
Assassin. Sorry, the milkman assassin. That's a very important distinction.
Yep. The milkman's a normal character, but slap on assassin at the end, and you got the...
And you got Umbrella Academy Season 2, is what you got. That's amazing.
Yeah.
This season is interesting. One of the things that I really enjoyed in last season was like the musical breaks. You know, they'd have like a song. I am not entirely sure how I felt about the music in this. Like, how much of this budget went into just getting licensing rights for these songs?
Maybe. And that, like, if they did have to spend a lot of money, that scares me for how much they could put into the rest of it.
Which I guess I would be concerned about that, but like the CGI and stuff was pretty good.
Yeah.
Like, I guess the thing is, like, I don't want them to rely too heavily on just like, oh, people know this song.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think that was one of the things that made it unique in the last season, was that they picked, for the most part, pretty like older songs that not a lot of people knew, or just like unique songs.
But they fit. You didn't have to know them. You were like, you listened to it, you were like, I have no idea what this is, but I love it and it fits perfectly. Except the one song right after the handler took 5 to go back to the commission in season 1. What's that called?
No idea.
I can't remember it.
They made some bangers though. Like
they did.
What's that? The Istanbul song, Constantinople.
Oh yeah, that one was so good.
It's so good, man. And
I completely forgot about that song, and then rewatching it, it started coming. Like, I was like listening to it at work, and I heard it come on, and I just started jamming out. It was
like I didn't hear one of those this episode. You know, it was a lot of just like generic 60s songs.
Was the Constantinople song later in the season?
It was like when 5 was in the cafe, fighting off.
Oh yeah, that was episode 5.
Yeah. Oh well, that's cute.
That was the episode was called Number 5.
Yeah, that's cute.
Mm-hmm.
I like that
because that's when they started talking about his backstory.
Mm-hmm. Can't believe they introduced it that late into the season.
Yeah, because that's halfway through.
Yeah. But all in all, you know, I'm excited to see where this series goes. Like, all the episodes are up, and so, you know, it's going to be hard not to just sit through and binge it, because, like, I really want to pay attention and see if I can pick up on things.
Yeah, especially if we're going to be doing this, we want stuff to have to talk about.
100%.
Small details to bring up.
Yeah. Well, is there anything else about the season that really jumps up at you? Any gripes or praises? Positives or negatives?
What was the girl's name? I wanted to talk about her. I feel like she's going to be important.
The Vanya's
Lila.
I have to double check now. I have to double check that that's her name. I'm going to feel so bad if we're butchering it. I can't believe I started this podcast by calling Vanya Vanna.
Yeah.
Isn't that the girl from Wheel of Fortune?
I don't. Vanna White, yeah.
Yeah. Got hit by a car. I'd like to solve the puzzle. Yes, her name is Lila.
Okay. I feel like she's going to be important, but I don't know how.
I think it's interesting that they introduced her, like, at all. Because, like, think of, like, the dichotomy of Diego's character, right? Like, last season, his love was this, upstanding police officer who was very, law abiding and could set Diego straight. Mm-hmm. And this season, they go a complete 180 and it still works. She's this literal crazy nut job who, like, in all honesty, I love her. She should be there. She should be in that nut house from what I've seen so far.
Yeah.
And she works so well with Diego's character.
She does. It's like she reminds me of Diego if Diego went down more of a path
just
of what
off
Klaus
the deep
did.
end. I totally agree. That's like a Diego
it's like
Klaus.
A druggy Diego is what she is.
Which is weird because like a druggy Diego was almost like an oxymoron. Like you need Diego to be so straight-laced in order to be Diego.
Yeah.
I think that's what makes the season so far really interesting for him is because like, yeah, he's a little kooky and all, but like you never actually expect him to end up in like a psych ward.
No. See, I thought he just got arrested and he was in jail when the guy brought up the mugshot to 5.
Well, he did get arrested, but sometimes when you get arrested, and like it's they evaluate it's like a psychological thing, then they will instead like sentence you to a psych ward. Like they said, he was stuck there for like 90 more days. He was basically in prison.
Yeah. He was there because he was obsessed with a president getting assassinated, so that would be a psychological thing.
Yeah, and he like, it wasn't just being obsessed with it, like he went to Lee Harvey Oswald's house.
Which, wasn't it like he was the one that was convicted, but they don't know if he was actually the one to kill him?
The JFK conspiracy is something so much bigger than this podcast, dude. It is insane. Like there's like saying that like the CIA were the ones that actually did it, and then like they never got Lee Harvey Oswald because like they never got him alive, and they're thinking that like it's because like the CIA like put a bullet in him to stop him from talking kind of thing. It is insane, dude.
I just remembered something.
What's up?
Season 1, right before
yeah
it was gonna be 5 that was gonna shoot him.
Yes,
but then he didn't.
Yeah, no, it's... I thought that was an interesting plot point, too, how something that seemed so minimal in the first season is such a big plot point for the second one. But I guess that's just kind of the nature of going by the Dallas comic, Like, that's just the source material. Mm-hmm.
Which, it's interesting that 5 was talking to Diego, saying that, like, hey, you can't do this. The president, like, that's not a problem right now. The president has to die because of timelines. Whereas last season, he was supposed to be the one to kill the president, but then he was like, no, I'm going to go back in time.
I wonder if Diego goes to where Lee Harvey Oswald or whatever is supposed to be and finds 5 there. Like, I wonder if he'll run into, like, their old selves. Because they were there.
You recognize him.
That's insane. Oh my gosh. Are they gonna mess with our Oh no.
I hope so.
Oh time.
But okay. So saying that they're on one timeline, meaning they all exist there, they can see past versions of themselves. When 5 first went to the apocalypse, Diego was like, 5, where were you? Meaning he wasn't there with them because he just went back in time. But if it's all one timeline, then shouldn't he have been there with them, but then the future 5 goes back and then he's with another 5?
Well, not necessarily, because like I just don't think 5 had gotten there at all. Because think about like each of the characters got spat out into, different time periods. And then 5 comes and he sees them all fighting the Russians or whatever. So what I think is that they all, got spat out or whatever, met up, and then this apocalypse happened, and then 5 finally got spat out, like, as it was happening. Like, he just got spat out really late, maybe.
Okay. That makes sense.
Does it? Does it, though?
Not really.
Does any of this make sense? Oh, man.
No, not really.
Yeah. Well, I mean, personally, I'm really excited for the season. I think
I'm very
it's
excited.
gonna go pretty well. It's the Umbrella Academy. It's a fan favorite. So.
It is. It's like number 9 on Netflix right now.
Oh yeah, and
Like, of all their shows.
it just came out today, so I'm sure that number will only increase.
Definitely.
Well, I think that about does it, don't you think?
I think it does.
All right.
We talked about every character.
Yeah. Down in the comments, if you got this far, what was your favorite and least favorite parts of the episode 1?
Yeah.
Open this up for a group discussion,
Group discussion.
Share with the class.
Yep.
Well, you want to go ahead and sign us off?
I don't know how.
Oh, really? Wow, what a professional we're dealing with here.
What is it?
Well, thank you everybody for listening to the podcast. It's super fun. If you guys enjoyed this, let us know, and we'll see about doing more of these. If there's any suggestions, let us know. That'd be great.
Yep.
This was fun, man. Thank you for inviting me on.
This was very fun.
It was.
I enjoy talking about stuff.
Yeah, of course, especially umbrellas and the milkman.
The milkman assassin. Oh boy.
See you later, guys.